Hey guys, welcome back to N3P Performance. Here today with myself, me, one and I, Brian Carter, and today we are talking about. Today we were talking about. Sorry, Jen just started laughing at me when I said that. We're talking about peaking for performance. So, lots of clients of mine and lots of people out there obviously love doing competitions. We love, and it varies by person to person of why you love competitions. Like you love seeing your hard work pay off. You love being out on the floor with your friends. You love to win, right? Maybe you're driving for that spot to the games, or maybe you're driving for that spot, that you didn't win last year. You got second place, or whatever that is for you. Let everyone on the competition floor has a different reason to be there. Some people are out there just to have fun. So, but we're going to talk about how to peak your performance for an event. So if you have an event coming up, kind of regardless of, well, I wouldn't say regardless, but let's just say you're very serious about this event, and the event dates are coming up. Like what should your program look like leading into that? So we're going to dive into that just a little bit here. We're talking about the relationship between volume and intensity. So what kind of volume should I be doing before my comp? How many weeks out should I be dialing that back? Should my intensity drop off? Or should it all stay the same? If my event's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I got a 3-day event, on what should I be doing that week of? Or if I'm doing the CrossFit Open and I know that I'm going to do it Friday and I'm going to do it Monday, or maybe I'm just going to do a one-off. I'm going to do it on Saturday. What do I do during the week? So let's talk about that. So you want to have a plan first. You got to know, ideally, what the events are for your, whatever your event it is. I know with the events that we run, Can West, East, Fight a Fittest, all those, the Throwdown series, we release all of our events, well in advance, so people know what they're getting into. People know what they have to do. I believe that just sets up the athlete for maximum success, instead of throwing them curveballs through the weekend. So, yeah, no one likes the old curveball right in the middle of the weekend. So, people are able to practice these events. So if you have the events in hand before, why not practice them? I was like, I won't say everyone, but I'd say a lot of people want to practice them, even if it's at like a sub-maximal effort. Some people don't. Some people, they're like, no, I don't want to know how it's going to feel at the end, because then I don't want to go to that place again. And that's fine too. So everyone's different. So you got to find a different way to program. Maybe you're programming the movements in a different way, or in an EMOM, or every 2 minutes you're breaking up. So it's not just like a, 9-15-21 thruster burpee row workout, right? You're going to break those movements up a little bit. So typically, and we'll talk in general theory, is reducing volume closer to events and keeping your intensity high. And when I say reducing volume, I mean relevant to the person. Like if the person is used to 5 workouts a week, or working out, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest day Thursday, and competing on Friday, the week of a competition, they should probably work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest Thursday, compete on Friday. It's just what's going to be different in those sessions, right? So you don't want to dial your intensity back, and then go into a super high intense weekend, right? You want to drop your volume off to allow the body to feel somewhat recovered and fresh as best you can leading into a comp, while you still have practice the movements, practice the events to your ability, and executed some high intensity pieces before that comes up. So it's just, how do you work backwards from that? And that's what N3P Performance is very good at. We're good at knowing what the event is. Athlete comes to me, it's like, this is the event I'm doing, these are the movements. Between that relationship between coach and client, you should know, like, oh, this is the muscle up event. We know we need to work on that, or then we need to practice those 2 movements together. And then let's say there's a run, and you're a really good runner. It'd be like, hey, I'm not I'm not going to take it lightly, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about, this 5K trail run. If I'm already a good runner, even if I'm not a good runner, if it's a week out of the event, there's nothing much I can really do to get really good at running in a week. So I just kind of hope for the best on that one. So, the longer you have time to prep, the more you can practice these pieces. Practice is perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Being mentally confident in yourself, in the abilities before you get out on the floor is going to be key. Kind of diving off the den into some more programming stuff, but peaking for your performance is just like, you have to trust in your coach, and your coach needs to know you as an athlete, and like, how much rest do you need? Like, take into consideration, like, how old are you? How long you've been training? What kind of event is this? What's the importance of this event? Like, is this like the event of the year for you? Or is this just something you're doing at a local box and you're like, I'm doing it with my friend. It's a partner event, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care. I'm just going to have fun. Okay, well, then maybe we don't need to reevaluate your whole training plan structure and rearrange that cycle around this event if that's the case, right? Maybe it's just like, okay, now it's, instead of your Saturday session, you're doing your partner comp. Yeah. Or you're an individual and you're doing your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like, okay, do your Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll take, a day or two off or do some light active recovery days. And then we're going to keep going based on how you feel. So, but if it's like, if it's your regional or if it's your master's online qualifier, it's like, yeah, it's pretty important to you. You've worked very hard to get there. I actually just finished up with a client doing the master's online regional. And, we did the open, knew he made it, practice, train hard. And then coming closer to the event, it's like, okay, well, as the events start to get, the events don't get released ahead of time. It's like, okay, Thursday night, it's like, boom, here's all your events. You have a couple days to get them all done. And it's just like, okay, well, we're going to, at that point, it's like we've already built in the rest into his training program for the previous couple weeks. We've reduced the volume. We've kept intensity high. We're doing touches on things that you typically have seen from the online qualifier in the past. You have to pay attention to those kind of things, like what's coming up on .com. Look at last year's events for the online Masters regionals. Look at the year before that, and and you're starting to practice and play with those kind of intensity pieces. You need to expose your athlete to the competition setting before they actually go into the comp. So it's a little different with an online qualifier because you're able to still do those events in your gym with your gear on your time. It's not like, hey, I'm going to an event. Maybe the event is outside, like Can West has been the last couple of years, and it's plus 40, and you're out there all day and you're super dehydrated and you have to work out at 8 a.m., 12 and 4. It's like, that's a completely different scenario to prepare for than, working out at home or in your home gym, your own box. You're like, hey, I can sleep till 10. I'm going to have my normal breakfast. I'm going to have my coffee. Then I'm going to drive to the gym. I got time to warm up and then I'm going to hit it. Right? Those are two very different scenarios that you have to take into account when you're talking about peaking for performance. Like, what are you peaking for and what are the external factors? If you're going to Can West the last couple of years being outside, it's like, it's outside. So maybe you should work out outside for a little bit before that. Maybe you should get used to being in the heat and sweating in the heat. Like, you need to be ready. Maybe you should have gymnastics grips, because what if the pull-up bars are really hot? All those kind of things. Practice lifting. I even see people lifting with sunglasses on. Like, the way the platforms are positioned, time of day that you're lifting is going to be different for you, and it's going to be different for some. So just like taking all those considerations into the things that you can control, and putting those into practice so that game day shows up and you're as prepared as you can be, all things considered. So, but yeah, if you keep it simple, and you think about, I need to feel fresh for this event. I need to feel confident in the event. So to feel fresh, we reduce volume, keep the intensity pieces high, and make the program look like the competition is going to be. Like, you shouldn't be a week out of a CrossFit competition, and someone looks at your programming and be like, just doesn't look anything like CrossFit, right? It's like, oh, this is, this may be a good training program, but maybe this should have been, 2 months after the event's over in our off season time, maybe like before the event, like you're going into a CrossFit or mixed modal training atmosphere. You need to be training at high intensity, doing those kind of movements and those kind of events and those kind of workouts. So you don't show up to the event and be like, oh yeah, I've been doing lots of, muscle up EMOMs. Well, that's great. Like, you need to build volume, you need to build the movement, you need to build the skill. But now all of a sudden you have to do, 800 meter run and 10 legless rope climbs and then 20 ring muscle ups. So if you haven't practiced doing those in a fatigue of pre-fatigued or with an elevated heart rate or both, I'm like, you're going to be in for more or less a rude surprise when you jump up to those rings and being like, oh, this doesn't feel like what I was doing last week or the week before, right? And so it's your job as a coach to expose your clients to the type of stimulus that they're going to get when they go to the competition. Before they get to the competition, make sure that you've reduced the training volume enough for that person. And some people need it more than others, like we touched on, whether you're a master's athlete, are you a teenager, are you in your mid-20s, like you've been training for 2 years, you've been training for 20 years, like it's all different, it's all relative to that individual. So that's for that coach and that client to discuss between themselves. But in short, always been thinking about, like, is my training looking like my competition? What's my rest like? Like, how many easy sessions am I doing a week? Mentally, how am I feeling? Am I just like beat down and exhausted, or am I fresh and kind of winding that spring down to, go full on Friday night, if that's when your event is, and being like, mentally, it's like, are you like, yes, I'm going to crush that Friday night? Or are you like, I am so tired mentally and or physically, like the week of a competition? It's like, okay, well, something maybe was out of place. Not saying that every time is going to be perfect for everybody, but I'm like, we should be able to have the athlete mentally and physically prepared and feeling fresh heading into any of their competitions that you two have discussed. That coach-client relationship being like, this is a big importance to me. I want to do the best I possibly can. Please peak me for these competitions. And then you have your competitions that are just like, hey, I'm just going to do this comp for fun. Like, please don't train. I actually had clients say that, like, please don't reduce my training volume or anything like that. I just want to show up, hit this workout, hit this little comp, 1 day comp or whatever that is for that person. And I just want to have fun with it. So just know what you're peaking for. Ideally have those ahead of time. So allow for full training cycles to be planned ahead of time. Good communication with your coach and client will be key for that. So peaking for performance. Thanks for tuning in, guys.